Tracy and Les are just going to leave those questions for 5 minutes.
I think it falls on me. I would like to take the opportunity on behalf of Professor Tracy and I to thank you, Professor Beckles, absolutely outstanding. Thank you so much for that. I say this because, as you can see on the screen, hopefully it's on the screen, this is the inaugural distinguished Windrush lecture. And what an inaugural lecture that was. Maybe if I use a cricket analogy, someone starts off strong. You know, they've got a lot to follow from that. So Beckles, I'm just humbled by it. There are a number of questions, of course, that come out of that very profound set of observations. I think the notion of the family is at the essence, and there are many issues to do with the psychological drama of racism, colonialism, and imperialism that we're kind of trying to deconstruct. I think you did that very well in terms of examples that you gave. We won't be able to discuss all of those now. However, I think one of the questions that I would want to ask is why you chose education as that means to start to unravel some of the maybe the traumas that you spoke about, as opposed to, let's say business, let's say politics, or let's say sport, or cricket, for example, because obviously you've opened those doors in the field of education, and you're very established in that field. Just very quickly on that point, and then we're going to take a point from the audience.
Well, you know, the famous saying that when you step out of your house in the morning, you don't know where your feet will take you. But I wanted, like the West Indian boy of my generation, I wanted to play cricket for the West Indies. That was my one and only ambition. Living here as a teenager, I played cricket. I was the Birmingham City cricket captain, youth captain. I played cricket for Warwickshire County as a youth. And then one day I had 2 letters in my hand. One letter invited me to join the Warwickshire staff as a professional cricketer. And the others to go to university. And my family said, you know, effectively, you are going to be the first in our family to go to university. And I was persuaded, so I went off to university. But having done so, I had 3 younger sisters. I thought, okay, I now have to mentor my 3 baby sisters and breed them up. So I had that role to play. I took my 3 younger sisters to university. One of them actually came all the way to Hull to join me and did the same degree program. But I mentored those 3 kids. Then the older ones all felt guilty and ashamed that the younger ones had done well, and then they went later on and so on. Then when I graduated, I was recruited to be an accountant. And I was starting out my career as a chartered accountant doing articles. And I was on a subway. I was going from Stoke Newington. I had a sister who lived in Stoke Newington. And I was on the Northern Line going down to Holborn to do my work. And a gentleman came on the train and sat next to me and looked at me and said, "My God, Beckles, what's become of you?" I said, "Prof, it was my professor. He had traveled from Hull down to London. He was an advisor to Prime Minister Callaghan. And he was going to Downing Street to see the Prime Minister. And he sat next to me and he said, I told him what I was going to do. I said, no. And he asked me to call him, and I did. And he said, listen, the university distinguished scholarship for a PhD has not yet been allocated. I'm going to speak to the Vice Chancellor because he knew me as the student who was leading the anti-apartheid campaign on the campus. I was the one who was leading the divestment campaign of our university. Has so much money in South Africa, and we shut down that campus until they took that money out of South Africa. And that's how he knew me. That was the image I had. He said, no. And then I got the letter that the Vice Chancellor and his committee had allocated to me the distinguished PhD scholarship. And I went back to university. And when I got there, they asked me what I wanted to do my doctorate on. And I said, I want to do my doctorate on Japanese multinational companies in Britain. And my professor said, no. You're not going to do that either. You are going to do something that is relevant to your people. Go and study the Caribbean, study Caribbean history. The economics of slavery. Everybody talks about slavery and the legal aspect. Do the finances of slavery. Go and do research on the financial dimensions of slavery. Why did it go on for so long? Who was making it? Why was it so? So, again, one man changed the trajectory of my life. So,
And of course, we haven't mentioned reparation tonight, but we won't.
Okay, so mine's a question for us to think about, maybe not to answer, because I'm very mindful that we need to open up to take a question from the audience. But as Dr. Les said, there is this theme of the reconstituted family and migration as a continuous narrative underpinning West Indian, Caribbean history. And so my question for us to think about is, where does that road take us next? So not to answer, but just to think about. And just maybe we've got some time afterwards, maybe we could think about those discussions as we're networking. But I think it would be remiss of us if we didn't at least have one question. I know, but there's plenty of questions, but unfortunately, because of time, we can only take one question. I
haven't really got a question, but I just want to say what a wonderful lecture it was. And so much of it resonated with me. But I will just say this about the Windrush generation, because my parents were very much the Windrush generation. I've spent an adult life as the one black person in an institution. I was the only black girl in my primary school. I was the only black girl in my girls' grammar school. I was the only black girl at Newnham College, Cambridge. And in 1987, I became the only black woman out of 650 British members of Parliament. And people often say to me, you must be quite resilient. And I always say, I got my resilience from that generation.
Thank you all very much. I'm sat there reflecting as a sort of working class kid from Yorkshire, and sort of think, God, there's so many histories about so many different things that happen in our lives, and I think actually to capture that history and learn from it and move on is just so important. So for me, the work that the Windrush Museum is doing is therefore just so important, and and if we can grow our collaborations in collaboration with others, that'd be a fantastic thing for us to do. So I'd be really proud if we managed to do that. But to Hilary, thank you so much for just sharing with us your ability to be able to talk for that amount of time without any notes. It would be impressive. I'd never be able to do it myself. But how you managed to balance the history part of it with your own experiences, your own life, really brought it home to us all. And certainly I've learned an awful lot from it, and I'm sure you all have as well. So thank you ever so much. I have a very small appreciation of a small token of our appreciation. We have a small gift that I'm going to pass.
There you go. Thank you very much.
And we also have a small gift.
Lady Mary.
Is bigger, but it looks heavier.
Well, all I can say is both of them will remind you of being here. Is my only clue to that. So all it remains to do is look. Thank you all for coming. It's been an absolute pleasure to host you. Thank you to Denise from the Windrush Museum, and thank you to the team here that's put together today. It's been a lot of work, but I think it's been really valuable in terms of bringing everyone together. So thank you all so much. Please have safe journeys home, and do keep in touch. All the very best.